1 year ago, I downgraded from an iPhone to a basic phone called the Light phone, and I wanted to share with you what that experience has been like for me. Now, if you're curious about the specifications of the phone itself, I actually made a different video that walks through the features of the phone, and you can check that out right up here. But in this video, I want to talk a little bit more at length about why I made the switch, as well as what it's been like, what I've liked, what's been hard, and whether I think it was worth it. So first things first, why I made the switch. I think that like a lot of you watching this video, I noticed that the way I interacted with my phone affected me in a way that I didn't like. Personally, I was kind of a late adopter to smartphones. I got my first iPhone in 2015, and I got hooked pretty quickly. I'm a huge procrastinator, and a smartphone is a dangerous weapon in the hands of someone like me because it just gives you something to do instead of the things that you should be doing. So pretty quickly, my screen time got really high and I found myself wasting a lot of time. I was wasting little moments of margin that I otherwise would have had to myself to just breathe and rest and think and get ideas. But instead, I was filling that time with just scrolling and ambient noise. Sit down on the couch, scrolling. TV's on in the room, still scrolling. In a line, in a waiting room, walking down the street, scrolling. I'm not making eye contact because I can look at my phone instead. And just mathematically, I hated the percentage of my waking hours that my screen time represented. It made me feel like I was wasting my life. So I felt noticeably more anxious when I filled that margin time with scrolling. And I'll also say that I couldn't stand it when I lost someone's attention because they were on their phone. It makes me feel so small, like I'm less important to them than whatever notification they just got in the middle of our conversation. And I talked about this a little bit in a previous video, but along the way I learned that getting a notification on your smartphone or pulling down to refresh on a social media app triggers the same response in our brains as the one that happens when we're playing a slot machine at a casino. It's called a variable ratio schedule, and what that means is that because we get rewarded at unpredictable intervals, we keep coming back because there's a thrill in not knowing what we might get next. So in that split second where I'm reaching for my phone or I'm waiting for the app to refresh, my brain is going crazy because it could be a text from someone I love, or it could be a notification that my post is blowing up, or it could be nothing. Casinos obviously make money the more time someone spends at a slot machine, but tech companies also make more money the more time we spend on our devices because it means more eyeballs seeing more advertisements. So these tech companies aren't looking out for your well-being or my well-being. They're trying to make money. And I think one of the things that finally put me over the edge was watching The Social Dilemma on Netflix. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but I couldn't recommend it more highly. It's an incredible documentary. But anyways, I had taken steps to kind of mitigate my phone use with apps and settings and different habits, but at a certain point I was just like, man, this thing needs to go. And the Light phone was the first phone that came across my radar that made me feel like downgrading would be a real possibility. The thought also occurred to me that if I can identify this thing that seems to clearly be a problem in society, but I'm not willing to do anything about it in my own life, then like, what am I even doing? So I pulled the trigger, and here we are a year later. So that brings me to my current setup, and in the spirit of being fully transparent, I do want to let you know that I didn't fully get rid of my old iPhone. I did switch the SIM card to the Light phone, but I kept the old iPhone around to use on Wi-Fi without a SIM card because there were still some essential functions I needed for my job and for running my YouTube channel. So now my old iPhone just essentially functions like an iPod Touch or like a very small iPad, but the Light phone is still my daily driver. It's where I get calls and text people and everything like that. I also share that just to let you know that if you're considering making a switch like this, it doesn't necessarily have to be cold turkey. I don't do this, but it is possible to just switch the SIM card back and forth between a phone like the Light phone and your old smartphone. So if you want to detox for like a week or a month at a time, that's totally possible. So I'll use my old iPhone to post on social media channels associated with my YouTube account, but I actually haven't posted on my personal Instagram account for like a full year, and that has been incredibly freeing. I used to be able to tell you like exactly which post had gotten the most likes on my profile, and now I can't even remember. Like, I have no idea. I do use the desktop versions of Twitter and Instagram, but for some reason it just feels like when I'm on a computer, I have a much greater awareness of how much time I'm spending on those sites. Whereas when I'm using my phone, I feel like there's kind of this weird time warp that happens where I lose awareness of how much time I've spent. In terms of navigation and getting around, the Light phone does have a directions tool now, and even though I can add that because the Light phone has software updates like any other device, I've actually chosen not to. And that's because I kind of like to try to figure my way around when I'm driving somewhere locally. And I don't know if you know this, but if you have an iPhone or even an iPod Touch, if you plug in a destination when you're on Wi-Fi and then turn it onto airplane mode or leave that Wi-Fi zone, the navigation app, whether that's Apple Maps or Google Maps or whatever, will still track your location. So as long as you make all the right turns or navigate back to the blue line, it'll still work as a functional GPS. So that's how I'm currently using the light phone, and here's what I really like about it. I would say the voice to text feature, which I think came out shortly after I got it, is my favorite feature. I kind of feel like an old man at times, but I just think talking into my phone is like so much easier and less time consuming than typing out a text. And on that note, I really do appreciate the fact that the Light team is constantly improving features on this phone, and so when software updates happen, the phone keeps getting better. So it's not necessarily like you're buying a stagnant device that's gonna keep getting worse and worse. It'll actually keep getting better. And unlike the iPhone, I know the Light phone team doesn't have plans to keep releasing newer and newer editions of the phone, so I don't have to worry about this thing becoming outdated anytime soon. Next up, I would say the Hotspot has been incredible. It's strong enough to support a laptop or my old phone if I need to use that in a pinch, and that's extremely useful when I'm traveling. I've heard a few people complain about the battery life, but I've had zero issues with that. I feel like my use does not drain the battery of the phone over the course of the day. So some days I'll plug it in and there's still a decent amount of battery left. I really like the notification system. So on the Light phone, there's just a small asterisk, and that's a lot less eye-catching than the red bubbles that I'm used to on an iPhone. So sometimes I don't even feel the need to check it. I'll just wait until I know that I'll have time to respond and check my texts later. I think because the Light phone doesn't have a camera, I've been encouraged to take my camera around with me more, which has been really awesome in terms of capturing more footage and pictures that are kind of for me and not necessarily with the motivation of like putting it on Instagram. I don't know if you ever caught yourself doing this, but I definitely found myself like on hikes or on trips or vacations thinking about like, how can I make sure that I get a picture that will look good for an Instagram post. And last couple things, because I'm not using apps like Nike Run Club, it's inspired me to get a running GPS watch, which has honestly been one of my favorite purchases ever. So I would highly recommend doing that as well. It means you don't have to run with your phone and you can still track your mileage and your time and all that. Okay, and then finally, I know this sounds cliche, but I would honestly say that I feel like I have gained back the ability to be present. And I feel that most when I'm kind of out and about and away from places where I have Wi-Fi, like at my house, where I'm able to access my laptop and my smartphone. But if I'm out with friends or out with my wife, I honestly feel like this phone limits my ability to be distracted and encourages me to be more mentally present. All right, and perhaps what you might be most interested in, what's been hard about having the Light phone. I would say as much as I really like and enjoy having this phone, just to be totally honest, it is very, very slow. Part of that is just the nature of the e-ink screen. If you didn't know, it's kind of like a Kindle screen, and it takes a second to kind of change. So that affects answering calls, opening text messages, typing, things like that. So that definitely takes some getting used to, and there are some days where that can be slightly frustrating. I think as good as the Hotspot is, currently it's like pretty hard to access. So you have to do, I think, 3 or 4 different sub menus before you can get to the toggle to turn on the Hotspot. Because it is an e-ink screen and it can't display pictures, it has a feature where it forwards pictures that are sent to you via text message to your email address. And I think that's a really good feature, but the Light phone has yet to develop effective ways to receive links and contact cards. So links just come in as plain text. I really hope that at some point in the future, the phone will forward links to my email like it does for pictures. But as of right now, I have to ask that person to either email me that link, or I have to go on my computer and type that link out to see whatever it is they sent me. Same with contact cards. There's no way to actually open it on the Light phone. And so a lot of times I'll have to respond to iPhone users and say, hey, I'm so sorry. Can you please copy and paste their number? My phone can't open Apple contact cards. This one's actually kind of funny. I feel like pretty soon after I got this phone, QR codes made a comeback in a huge way because a lot of restaurants got rid of hard copy menus. So that's just been kind of an interesting downside. I don't mind it that much, but it has been kind of funny to wait for the people I'm eating dinner with to pick out what they want, and then I ask to borrow one of their phones to check out the menu if the restaurant only does the QR codes. And then finally, just something a year in, the case is kind of starting to break and chip away here. So this is a silicone case that I had the opportunity to buy when I purchased the phone, and yeah, just about a year in, the corners of it are starting to crack a little bit there. All right, and then before wrapping up the video, I just want to answer the question, do I think it was worth it? And I would say yes, 100%. I still feel very strongly about all the reasons I listed at the beginning of this video, and I think I'm probably convinced now more than ever that smartphones are not good for our mental health and that people need more in-person connection and less connection mediated through devices. And for me, if I can inspire even just one person to do this or something like this, I honestly think that that would improve not only that person's life, but also the quality of life for the people that you interact with most. And just so you know, I don't get any reward or kickback or anything for saying this, but if you are interested in learning more about the Light phone, like I mentioned at the beginning, I have another video where I walk through the features and review it, and you can check out that video by clicking right up here. And if you want to hear more voices than just mine, you can look through the comments of that video. There are close to 14,000 views, and a lot of people have commented. Some of those are just questions, but other people have critical feedback of the phone. Some people have said that they think that it's garbage. I don't think that, but I also think that I had a very clear idea of what to expect when I was getting the phone. And finally, I just want to close out this video by answering the question, do I think I'll ever go back? And to that, I think the answer is maybe. I think that there are a lot of things that would honestly be a lot more convenient about having an iPhone, but I think I'm also a little bit afraid that I'll kind of relapse or go right back to where I was in terms of phone use and screen time, maybe even worse. I don't know. So maybe someday I'll go back to a smartphone, but as of right now, I don't have plans to do that in the near future. And if you made it this far in the video, you might be wondering like, hey, why does this guy make YouTube videos if he's so against people spending time on their phone and wasting time? And my answer to that is that my hope would be to make videos and to create content that genuinely improves the quality of your life, that you would be better off for having watched it. Whether that's something as big as encouraging you to switch from a smartphone to a basic phone, or something as simple as putting a smile on your face. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do that by clicking right here. You can let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the phone, and I hope I'll see you soon.